everybody, it's Kaycee. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do another teaching, learning video, whatever you want to call it, in Silhouette Studio. I'm going to be showing you how I would make a few different kinds of checkboxes for planners. What we're going to do, we're going to start, obviously this is Silhouette Studio and I have the business edition. I always want to tell you this, but you can have the free version too. I'll put the link in the description box below so you can just download the software yourself, the free version, and you should be able to do the same thing that I'm doing in the free version. You don't even need a cutting machine to use the free version. Today I wanted to show you a few different types of checkboxes. So I wanted to do the ombre checkboxes that are pretty popular on Etsy, and then also like the long skinny checkboxes, and then just individual checkboxes. They're all pretty simple to make. So once you see what I'm doing, you should be able to make them yourself. So we're gonna just kind of get started then. I have my setup here just kind of as the default. The machine, I have a Silhouette Cameo, so it's set up for the Cameo. It's got a 12 by 12 inch mat, which you can see simulated here. And then I just have regular size paper, 8.5 by 11, so I left that the same too. And then my registration marks I have just as default. All we need to remember is to keep the design and cutting, like everything we're cutting, inside this red line and away from the registration marks so that the machine can still read the registration marks so it knows where to cut. Alright, we're going to zoom in a little bit because our stickers aren't going to be huge, so we don't need to be that far out. And we'll just get started. So the first thing I did was I went to my planner and I got a ruler and I measured the area that we're going to be putting these to-do lists or check boxes in. You always need to do that because you don't want to just go in here and blindly start creating something, because then your size is probably going to be way off. So you need to know the area that you're going to be designing for. And so I'm using a plum paper planner and I have the MAE layout, like the morning, afternoon, evening. And so each section is good for like check boxes, and each section has like a bunch of lines in it also. So I measured all of that. So I'm just going to kind of draw. I always like having it off to the side, just kind of a little visual of the area that I'm going to be designing in. So I'm just going to draw a rectangle, and it can be pretty rough right now. So my rectangle is going to be 2.08 high, which is right here. Like I'm up here right now. Sorry. So I drew a rough rectangle, but you don't need to make it exact. You can always change the measurements right up here. So the width is 1.45, and then hit enter, and then now you'll see down here 1.45 by 2.08. So that's what we want. That's just kind of, I always put the visual over here, and then I also have lines. You don't need to do this, but I would recommend doing it just to get used to Silhouette, and just like so you can see that when you do make your stickers that they'll fit in here. You can also draw the lines. I'll show you those in a minute though. This is the area that we're going to be drawing in, and this way what I can do now. So now I want to make the ombre check boxes, and here's how I would do that. I'm grabbing this and I'm going to hit, if you're on a Mac, you can hit Command C to copy, or Windows, I think it's Control C, or you can come up to File, and then you can say, edit and say copy. And then the same thing, you can hit Command V or Control V, or go up to Edit and say paste. And then you'll just have like a duplicate. I'll show you like a bunch of different tricks. So there's also a copy and paste over here. If you go to the replicate panel, you can also just push this arrow, duplicate right here, and then it goes right immediately to the right. So there's a few different ways to duplicate this because we're going to be duplicating quite a bit. Alright, so what I want to do for these ombre checkboxes, I have my big long box, but we want to break it into a bunch of different sections because we want to make it different colors for the ombre. So the width is correct, but the height, I want to make the height the same as the spaces between the lines in my planner. So that would be 0.26. It's just over a 1/4 inch. And then I'm going to do that. Alright, so that's how big. You can make this a little bit bigger. These are pretty thin, like the lines in my planner are pretty thin. If I wanted to make have a little fatter room to write in, you can always drag this down. It doesn't have to match up with the lines, but right now for me, I want to make them the same size as the lines. Obviously, you can make it any size you want, and you can still apply this how I'm designing this. All right, so we have our first, this is like one of the sides for the little, one of the little sections of lines, 1.45 by 0.26. Now what I want to do is change this box so that it's the color that I want. So I'm going to come over here to the fill panel. Can't talk today. All right, and then we're just going to pick a color. We want the darkest color that we want on this to-do list. So I'm just going to, let's just pick this one. We'll make like an orange. That might be a little too dark. You want to make sure it's dark, but you don't want to make it so dark that you won't be able to write on it. This may take a couple times, like when you print it out, you might see you want like different colors. So it's a little bit like you'll have to just test it out, but I'm guessing like this color, it'll be pretty dark, but you'll still be able to write on it. So we're going to be doing an orange ombre. And let's come up, or actually I like purple better. So let's just start with this purple one. And that looks good. And then I'm going to come over here to the lines. This one's the line, this is the fill. So I opened the line, and then I don't want any line. So we're going to go over here to color and then say none, which is this like lined, this pattern thing right here means none. You can also come up here and do it the same thing up here. Here's the line, here's the fill. All right, so we have our one rectangle box, and now what I want to do is do the checkbox, because we're just going to be replicating this and sending them all down the line. So what we want to do is get it all finished before we do that. So what I'm going to do is I need to decide what I want the checkbox to be. Let's just right now, for now, just make it a square. It's simple. So in order to draw a square with this rectangle tool, all you need to do is hold down the shift key when you drag, and then the proportions will stay the same. So we just need a small little square, and then I'm taking off the outline, and I'm going to make it, actually it's just going to be a white square for now, and it kind of turned invisible, but we'll pull it down here and you'll be able to see it again. Okay, make sure you always turn the red line that's the default off, or it will cut. So like the red line is the cut default line, and you don't want it to cut like every individual, like you don't want it to cut this little checkbox out. All right, so there we have that. This is going to be a very square label or sticker. You can obviously make this whatever you want. You can make it a hexagon, you can make it a circle, whatever you'd like. And that's all over here too. So you can just pick your shape. And I want to make sure this is centered, so I drag my mouse over both of them, and then if you go up here to this little thing up here, these are all shortcuts too. Everything I'm doing here you can find over here also. Maybe I'll show you this over here. So this, you can see the transform panel right here. I just click transform, and then what I want to do is line them both up. So I want them all lined like in the middle right here, so I'm clicking that. And I don't know if you noticed, but this little, like the little square just went down just a tiny bit. So now we know it's perfectly centered within this box. I can also, if I think it will look better, scoot it over a little so it's like more even around. You can you just kind of eyeball and see whatever you think looks best. So this is what I'm going to have as my main checkbox. Now what I want to do is group this just so that the white square doesn't move or anything. So I'm just going to come over here, right up here, group selected shapes, group it, and now it's just one shape. All right, now what we want to do is go over here to our replicate panel and hit this down button, which it'll create one that immediately goes down. And I think I'm going to want to do, maybe let's just make a 6 checkbox. So we're not going to have it cover this whole area, because usually I don't need 8 checkboxes full of things, but 6 sounds about right. Now for these, we probably shouldn't have grouped it quite yet, because we'll have to change the color. So we're going to ungroup these. I just drag all of, like if you drag, like it selects everything. So these are all separate now. So now what I want to do is click the second one. It's hard to see since they're all the same color. And then come over here to the color. And there's a few different ways you can do this. You can pick a new color, like pick a lighter color. But I think what I'm going to do is just do transparency. So we're just going to maybe do it like, we don't want to do it too much because it'll be ombre and you don't want it to go super light. So maybe just do 15 for this one. And then I'm going to click the next one and maybe make this one like 25, 20. 23, doesn't have to be exact numbers, and then so on. So you just want the transparency to be a little higher for all of them that you do, so that they it just keeps getting lighter and lighter. And this, again, you kind of just have to play around to see what you like best. It's getting light. Like if you like a more drastic change, like this is pretty subtle, you can obviously make the transparency lighter. Like here. Like we could do that. And then, see, that's like quite a bit. That's, this one's at 53 and this one's at 34, so maybe put this up to like 40. But just there you can kind of see the ombre effect. And then each of these are about 0.26, so it should print about perfect to fit in within the lines of this that I have. Now what we need to do, this is not going to cut at all. So I like this, I like what it looks like right now, but I need to make it so that it's going to cut. So right now I'm actually going to see, this is actually 1.56 inches tall by 1.45. I'm just going to take this, what I had, and then I'm going to kind of line it up with the top. I'm just doing this because this is an easy way to make the cut line. So we're just going to push this over so it lines up right there and then align it to the top too. Alright, so now this is exactly like that, but we do need to bring the bottom in. And I'm not sure exactly what it was. So I'm just 1, 2, 3, scooting this over a minute and then to remember what the height is. 1.56. So we want to make this red line 1.56. It's 1.564 right now, so we can just do that. And then, like the easiest way for me to do this is click this, and then click the topmost box, make it align top and left, and then you have it like perfectly lined up. Hopefully that made sense. These are all ungrouped right now. These little squares are all on their own, and then these are all on their own. And we just want to pull this out. I use my own bleed, so this is why I'm doing that. So this is on top right now. The cut line's on top of all the design. And this is the exact cut, that like the size that I want to cut, so that's perfect. But what I want to do is make a bleed now. So I'm going to select everything, and then I'm going to, if I hold shift and click on the red line, that way the red line's not selected anymore. Like if I push these over, you'll see that only the purples are selected. So now all I'm going to do is kind of pull them out. I could have done a bleed before, like made these a little wider while I did them each, but this is easy too. And then all I'm going to do is pull this one out from below and then pull this one out a little bit above. And this just extends the purple past the cut line, just in case the cut line gets off a little bit. It just gives you a little bit of wiggle room, and because cutting machines aren't perfect. Alright, so there's the checkbox, like the ombre checkbox sticker. Hopefully that kind of helped you for that one, if you're curious how to make that. Now onto, that was probably the most difficult one, just because you have to choose the colors, and obviously, like I said, you can adjust these colors any way you want. Like this could be a little bit lighter if you want to, and then these could be a little nicer. Like you can step them down in even, like maybe every 5 or 10%. So it's all like kind of an even shade down. I just kind of did it roughly since I'm just kind of showing you this right now. Alright, let's do the regular check boxes, just kind of like the long, skinny check boxes. So since we already made this is going to be very simple. I'm actually going to copy this. So I'm going to take, select this whole thing, replicate it, put it over to the right, scoot this over a little bit so it's not touching. And then I'm just going to group all this, finalize group it so it's all together and it doesn't move. Alright, now that we have this is going to be, like I said, very simple. I'm actually going to get rid of all these colors. We don't need the colors, but we do need these to kind of show up, so I'm just going to drag to select all of those, and then I'm just going to make them a color right now. We'll change that. We'll probably put them in outline soon. But let's just leave them like that right now, and then all I have to do is bring this in, and then you literally get your checkbox that fast. Now what I'm going to do is select all my little checkboxes in here, and then I actually we're gonna kind of, let's see, we can make these whatever we want. Like a color you'll just have to like figure out for yourself. And then I want to make this, you need to make sure, since we're doing a stroke, we actually want the stroke to print, so it has to have like a point set to it. So I'm just gonna say 1 right now and see how big that looks. Probably 2 maybe. 1 looks kind of small. So there's 2, and then we don't want to fill. So I'm going to come up here to the shortcut fill and then say no fill. And then we have it like that. So then you can just like check all of these off as you go. And then these are the right size. But say that you didn't have this originally and you just made the square and then you made these boxes. What you can do to make sure they're exactly aligned is select them all and then make sure you deselect the cut line because you don't want that. And then you can come over here like I showed you before, or up here there's the shortcut. But then these horizontal and vertical, they space out your like whatever you have selected perfectly. So we want them spaced vertically, which they're already exactly vertically, but let's say this one was like, well, let's do like so in the middle. The outer 2 need to be kind of where you want it to be. So let's say they're kind of like this. So obviously these are not even when you draw them. So let's select them all, deselect the cut line by clicking shift and then, or holding shift and then clicking the line, and then vertical, and then those move back perfectly into place. So hopefully that helps you with like spacing issues. And then also if we select everything, and then we want everything aligned in the center like this. So they all moved over to the left a little bit, so they're a little more centered. I can always make this a little bit bigger. One little trick you can do if you want to extend both sides at the same time is hold Alt or Option and then click and then just drag it out. And as you can see, both sides are coming out at the same time. So I can kind of make them however wide I want it to be. So whatever, it's going to be fine. All right, so that's what we have there. We could do this kind of the same as this, make it like a solid color, and then these could be white. And so they're not just like plain little check boxes, or they can just be white like this. We could still make it. What I would probably do is draw, what I would do, I'll show you what I would do because I like making things exact, but I would come over here to the offset panel, just kind of showing you different things that Silhouette Studio can do. And I always do 0.3 for a bleed, and you can apply that. And then take off the red cut line. We're not cutting the bleed. And then we'll just make this yellow. And then obviously this is where, so we want to send this color to the back, so we'll say send to back right there. And then that's what it looks like there. So then you can put a color behind it if you want to. I wouldn't exactly put yellow with this red like this. This is like raspberry yellow or raspberry red with the yellow, but it's fine. You can pick your own colors, obviously. So that's how I would kind of do a small thin checkbox. And then if you want more of these, you can just take them, click, I just click the yellow box, click the checkboxes, and then you can do more right here, replicate down. And then, like I said, I'm kind of just scooting these down. Make sure like the top and bottom boxes are where you want to be. Select them all again. Make sure you're deselecting though anything you don't want, like this yellow box and the cut line. And then do the, like, space it out like I showed you before. So it's vertical. So those just move slightly. So, and then you'll have to just pull this down or make a new bleed, however you want to do that. But then you just pull that down how you want it. And then make sure you're always measuring the cut line just to make sure it's the right size. Like this is 2.073, so I'd probably make that the 2.8, just so it's the exact height of the box that I measured before at the beginning. So, like that. All right, we're going to change this yellow because it's bothering me. It's not very pretty at all. I'm just going to make it a very light color. All right, there we go. So those are kind of 2 checkboxes you can make. And one more thing that's very simple that I have been using. I've been using dots. Dots are really easy to make too. You don't want to put them too tight on your printer though, because, or on your paper though, because the cutting machine kind of, that's a lot to cut. So I kind of spaced mine out a little bit so it's easier for the cutting machine to like do it accurately. I didn't like shove a bunch of circles all right next to each other to cut. But just to make little dots like as check marks, or as like, I just use dots for anything. Like I printed those out for me and I'm using them all the time. But you can check them off, or you can just use it to like call something out in your planner. But say I want a dot, say I want it, again, I'm holding the shift key so that the circle stays just like the square. I click the circle over here. And if you hold shift and it's an exact circle then, so it's 0.2 by 0.2. You can always change the dimensions up here also. But I have this circle here. This is about the size of my dots that you can find on my shop. And then I came over here. I did the offset 0.03. I think I did actually a little bit bigger for these just because they're so tiny. So 0.05 I did. And then over here, take off the cut line and then make it whatever color you would like. We'll do green for this one. We haven't done green yet. And then this will just cut like a tiny little circle. And the last thing that I would do is, let's just take one of these so we don't have to recreate it. I just copy and paste. If you just want a single checkbox, bring it over here. And then this is the exact width, say, that I want. So I'm, oh, not that, we want the cut line. Sometimes it's easier to select multiple things, like cut lines are so tiny. So select like the background and the cut line, and then just shift click the background, so that's just easier for me. And then what we want to do, we're going to zoom in because these are getting really tiny. But I'm going to click this again and bring this up like that, and then just have a little checkbox right there. Then you can do the same also like we did this, make a background, change this. This, we want to center it, so we'll use it up here this time, this and this. Okay, it was pretty centered already, but now it's exactly in the center. Keep this a little bit away from the edge just so it doesn't get cut off. If you get it too close to the edge, then the cut lines when your printer or when your machine is cutting it can be off slightly. So you want to make sure that's why we use a bleed, and then make sure there's just a little bit of a margin between your check boxes and the cut line, but it doesn't have to be that big. They're pretty accurate. Alright guys, I hope that helped you with check boxes. If you have any questions, put them in the comment section below. If you like this kind of video, please give it a thumbs up. Please let me know if you want me to do any more of these kind of videos, what you'd like to see. If you have any questions about Silhouette Studio, anything, just put it in the comments below and I'll try to get back to you as fast as I can. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!